I'm Tom Baker, this is chasingcars.com.au, and today we're driving this, the second generation Volvo XC90. This is a truly important new car for Volvo. The first generation model was their best ever seller, and it found more than 15,000 happy owners here in Australia. But the new XC90 is the first car that Volvo has built entirely in-house since the arrival of new Chinese ownership. The new owners have doubled down on quality, research and development, and the XC90 now moves into a more expensive price bracket. This base model is priced around $100,000. Now, it is very comfortable, practical and an impressive SUV, but at that price point, would you pick it over equivalent Audi Q7s and BMW X5s? Judging by the innovations in the cabin, you just might pick the Volvo. Some elements do say classic Volvo, but there are important developments everywhere you look. The materials that you interact with and touch are all incredibly soft and feel more premium than ever before, including this beautifully stitched center console here. There's aluminium trim in this car and it looks very stylish indeed, although there's a range of natural woods which are even more tasteful. And all 7 occupants sit in deeply supportive and comfortable leather seats. These two up front are particularly soft and very supportive over long road trips. The main event in the cabin though is the large tablet-like screen that you interact with on the dashboard. This is how you control almost all of the car's features, and there are less than 10 physical buttons in here in the cabin. It's about as smooth and responsive as an iPad, which is a big compliment to Volvo. There's almost no learning curve in how you can interact with the audio systems and the satellite navigation. It's a great system and one of the biggest innovations that we've seen in this class so far. We'd go as far to say as this is the best interior among the cars that the XC90 competes with. The driver also looks down at a set of digital gauges which are crisp and clear and feed you all of the information that you need to know. There's also little playful touches in the interior, like the crystal-like surround for this engine switch down here. You just have to wonder why, at $100,000, simple features like heated seats and keyless entry remain on the options list. Your occupants seated in the second row of the XC90 will be almost as comfortable as those up front. There's enough room and width here for 3 adults to sit side by side, and at 6'0", you can see I've got a huge amount of headroom thanks to the classic boxy Volvo shape of this car. If you've just got 2 people, then you've got this great fold-down tray here to make things even more comfortable. So, how about pricing our XC90? Well, you've got 3 grades. The base model, which we're in now, is called the Momentum, and that starts in the mid to high $90,000 range, depending on the engine that you choose. Most people will step up to the mid-range Inscription model, which will cost you around $110,000. However, there is a very quick and very luxurious T8 model coming in R-Design trim, which is going to be a sporty option, and that's going to be well into the $120,000 range. Even with the third row seats in place in the XC90, there's still room for a few school bags or a small weekly shop, which is really impressive. If you want a cavernous boot though, you'll fold that third row and enjoy heaps of space. But if you need a truly long, wide and properly square space for some long or awkward objects, maybe from that flat pack furniture store that you guys know I refer to often, you can drop the second row here, nice and easily, with all the seats folding truly flat. Even right here in the very back of the XC90, your 6th and 7th passengers actually sit in proper seats. For adults, short trips are totally fine, and kids likely into their mid-teens will be perfectly comfortable back here all the time. So if you've got a bigger family, the XC90 is a really great option. The XC90 was never designed to be a sports SUV. It's intended to be a very comfortable cruiser, and if you keep that in mind, it's hard to not be impressed by the driving experience that the new Volvo brings to the table. Designed around 3 engine choices. They're all 2-litre 4-cylinders, although you'd swear that they weren't that small. This week we've driven the T6 petrol, and it really does have ample power and torque. 239 kilowatts and 400 newton meters are pretty impressive, and in the real world that means it's agile around town and pulling power on the highway is really great. Need to overtake on the highway, the transmission barely needs to drop back from its top gear. In fact, the automatic is incredibly refined and it keeps engine noise very low. In fact, it's almost imperceptible. The road and wind noise are maybe a touch louder than we'd expect at this price point, but it's never offensive. A petrol-electric hybrid is on the way, and that one will be called the T8. That's going to be probably the most impressive engine with a power figure close to 300 kilowatts, and it's also going to claim to achieve very impressive fuel economy indeed. Now there's also a diesel called the D5, but we wonder whether it's necessary because this T6 petrol is very smooth and fuel economy is an incredible improvement over the old model. Over our week with the T6, we managed 9 litres per 100 k's combined, which is better than cars much smaller with similar turbocharged petrol engines. The handling of the new XC90 is also an improvement over the pretty roly-poly old car, although it's never particularly dynamic. It's not as agile as an equivalent Audi Q7 or BMW X5, but the steering does its best to be accurate in more sporting corners. Around town, the steering's very light, which most people are going to find beneficial, and on the highway it does weight up nicely as well. The optional air suspension is a box that I would tick if you can splash out for it, because it handles the everyday bumps and potholes better than the standard steel springs. They just tend to jar a little bit, which reminds us of that typically firm Volvo ride. It's never offensive, it's just not as comfortable as some other alternatives in the segment. This is a big Volvo, so of course it's going to tend to be pretty safe, and the best safety feature of the new model is just that the windows are really big and all-round vision is a lot better than some other models in this segment, which is really great. Now, while a big reversing camera is standard through the large tablet-like screen in the central display on every model, we do wonder why safety features like active cruise control are optional on the base XC90. Surely if we're talking about $100,000, it's time to take things like that off the options list. The second generation XC90 shows what happens when a brand doubles down on its engineering efforts. Filling the boots of the old Volvo was a big job, but this new car is up to the task. We like the new XC90, and you should head over to chasingcars.com.au to discover why this is the first SUV to receive a rating from us of 9 out of 10.